This episode contains candid discussion of domestic violence and assault. If you or someone you know needs support, please reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline 1-800-799-7233 or hotline.org. Today on Mixing Up Success, I am sitting down with Ursula Hacha, the founder of Lush Cakes out of Portland, Oregon. Ursula specializes in lavish, custom wedding cakes, and her story is one of the most honest ones I've had the privilege of sharing on this show. She started her business with a very specific goal in mind: financial freedom. Not as a buzzword, but as a lifeline. Over 7 years in, she's navigated the highs of building something real and the very human experience of life not going according to plan. And she's still here, still baking, still showing up. This conversation is for every baker who started their business because they had to, and who's figuring out what it looks like to keep building anyway. Ursula, welcome to Mixing Up Success.
Thank you so much, Jenny. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, I am so excited to have you share your story. When you reached out and applied to be on the podcast, I dove into your cakes and I was blown away by your
Thank you.
work. They are gorgeous. You just are very, very talented.
Oh, thank you.
So anybody listening should go check them out because your skill is just fabulous. But with that, could you share with us how Lush Cakes got started? Because I think you have a really unique story compared to a lot of bakers that start out of, a lot of us start because it's like, oh, I need a creative outlet or I need something, I want to contribute to the income. You truly started for financial freedom. And so could you share your origin story of Lush Cakes with us?
Yeah, so how it started for me, I'll go a little bit back before the financial freedom. I feel like this career path chose me. I have always been very creative and I have been what I call delusional enough to be like, oh, how hard can it be? So people start coming to me and ask me, since I can draw and paint, if I could do cakes. And I started, it was like my first one was like a unicorn cake. And I did like a little horn out of fondant and why not. It came a little crooked, but it came. And from there, the idea came out to my mind that I needed something to start making my own money. Because I was in a hard relationship to not go too much into details, right? Like I had already kids and I started going through like domestic violence. And sorry, it gets me a little emotional to go down
Yeah.
that road. But I was in a relationship where I had a great provider. He was a great dad, but he paid for everything. So I had like nothing to complain. But at the same time, I couldn't and I didn't have my own money.
Sure.
So I had to go through him for him to pay for everything. He had to be the one to take me out. So I
Yeah.
didn't have that financial freedom. And this came as that kind of opportunity that I was like, you know what? Like, I need to make my own money because I don't like where this relationship is going and how I felt that I was kind of like caged in, that I couldn't leave even if I wanted to. If that
Yeah.
was like my honest desire to move with my kids, I couldn't. And so I went on Instagram and I started posting pictures of the things that I did. And it was hard. And I was scared out of my mind entirely that I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I'm going to have like the support because I'm not from town. I didn't grow up here. I don't have friends here. But the necessity. Like I had a clear goal in mind that it was like, I need to remove myself and my kids from this situation because my belief is that the best that we are, the best that we can be for our kids. So with that in mind, it's how my business started, and I'm so grateful for the kind of support that all the community from Hood River, the Dells, White Salmon, Portland, Beaverton have shown me. Like it has been beyond where I would have anticipated. I thought it was just gonna be a little like, I don't know, like just Instagram and just like people here and there, which I have had my work even display on the UK. Like for crying out loud, like brands from like companies that we use for cakes, like for fondant or
Yeah.
Satin Ice, Wilton, like they have shared my work. So I'm beyond my like, oh my God, I thought I was just like trying to make a little money. I became what I call like IG famous. So
Yeah.
that's how it started.
Well, Ursula, thank you so much for sharing that honest story because I think there's people out there that need to hear it. And you are exactly right. There's something so powerful with being able to make decisions on your own and build a life that you want and how you want it. I think it's really powerful that cakes became that avenue for you to build the life that you wanted. And I am a firm believer in building a business around the life and making it work. And so that's really incredible to hear your story of how you kind of got started. So tell us what it was like to put yourself out there on Instagram. Did you just start making cakes for friends and family? How did you said you didn't have a lot of connections. How did you start getting the word out?
So it's well, to me, I kind of like feel like it sounds silly, but so like I said, I did the first cake for a family member. They asked me, I was like, "Hey, you think like?" Because like I said, I draw, and
Mhm.
people knew me because I draw portraits, and then they asked me, "You think you can do a cake? Like you can do like the little face of a unicorn?" I was like, "Yeah, how hard can it be?" Well, I was completely delusional because that thing was like the hardest thing. Like, and I have been through my fair share of like having to do the code and to learn tricks and why not. Like, trust me, it's very difficult to do cakes. I was not knowing what I was getting myself into. So when people say it's a piece of cake, I don't know, like if it's the piece of cake that like you get to build, but it is really difficult. So I would say that it was more of I did baking with my mom when I was very little. So I
Mhm.
started posting pictures of recipes that I knew, like kind of like carrot cake and cheesecakes, like little slices. And I have always like presentation, like I'm very visual. So I start doing the presentation like serving kind of like in a restaurant and why not. And people like were like, oh, that looks really good. How much would you sell that for? Or have those kind of questions, which again, I was out of my element. I didn't even know how to charge. They're
Mhm.
along like I was giving away my work. I would just be like, get the get the ingredients. And that's how I started. Like, oh, like just pay me for I'm gonna need fondant, I'm gonna need this, I'm gonna need that. And I would just mention it. So it's gonna be about this much. But then as time went by or progressed, I start seeing that I start getting a lot of demand. Like it became popular because I did cakes, even starting, like I did cakes that look a bit more advanced for just a beginner.
Mhm.
And so the word spread out and that I did custom cakes and then I had a more work that I can chew on. So
Yeah.
um
Yeah, I think Instagram, I well, you started I've been doing cookies for 7.5 years, and we started similar time doing business, and I think 7.5 years ago, Instagram was very picture oriented, right? Like, reels and things still weren't happening.
yeah, they were not a big thing.
Yeah, and so it was like you could just post pictures of your completed work and it triggered people to order. And that's
Mhm.
what I found. Like you could just share work you had done and then it brought in the next round of orders because people were excited to have your product at their event, whatever they were celebrating. I do think it's a little different now because I feel like how do you use Instagram now for marketing or, bringing in orders compared to when you started? Because I feel like it's very different. I feel like when we started, you could just post pictures and it was like magic, more orders would come.
Well, you know where the magic was? Because that
Mm.
was the time where COVID happened. So I
Yes.
feel that a lot of people were not at work and
Mm,
were
mhm.
spending an awful time in their devices.
Yes.
So it kind of became like a little explosion of you see something. And
Yeah.
I mean, the pictures were incredible. So you see it and it's like, I want it. So it became, I think, and then it was very popular that they did like a little tagging
Mhm.
people people will be wanting to be in your page. So it became kind of like let me orders. This person that has a lot of following can post it. And so I
Yeah.
can be exposed, and like
Yeah.
their little thing and became like a little train. A lot of people were like jumping on board, oh, I want to be part of it.
Yeah.
And so you will have a lot of just people adding you or ordering from you so they can be like reposted or they can tag you and you can repost their little stories. So it was pretty fun back then. Now I feel like the market has been very hectic because just like we started around that time, a lot of other people that have lost their businesses or their jobs, period, like they didn't have because they were not essential. They start doing businesses because they needed some sort of income so
Yeah.
that became the thing, they start doing selling home goods on
Yeah.
Instagram. But to go back to your question, how I do now, I'm actually not as much invested. I feel that I have already have customers that are recurring customers. When I did the oh my gosh,
The
if you can help me with the
application
word.
here?
The application, yes, thank you. So when I
Yes.
did the application, I shared with you a little that life hasn't happened how we wish or how we plan sometimes, little
Yeah.
things here and there. So just recently, starting this year, I was in another relationship and I got assaulted on January 11th. And so that distanced myself from my business because now I have been in courts on and on.
Yeah.
And, it had stopped for a little, but, at the same time that this assault happened, then something else happened in Hood River. I have 4 kids, and my oldest, got in trouble. He got accused, and I won't get into details, but, like, he's in juvenile. And so, like, again, I'm in court through family things, and I'm in court through my own things because the assault, like, the guy completely disfigured my face, like
I'm sorry.
badly. So, again, this is part of taking my power back. And for the listener, if you think that you're going through something difficult, and I will say as an encouragement that, like, I don't, I would like to do what she does, like in cakes or like yourself, cookies or anything else that it's in your mind. I believe that it's possible. Like I said, I'm delusional, so maybe don't take my advice, but take it is that it doesn't matter how difficult life it is. Trust me that when you have your will, then I believe in the power of God. So I get my strength from him. And I'm sorry that I'm gonna get not religious, but I cannot take credit for everything that I do and like the strength that I get through process everything that happens, in our lives, and why not? But I will have to give the glory to God for this, that it gives me the strength to continue and trust me that life is not easy. Managing a business is not easy, but you have to find the battles that you really want to fight for. Like one thing is for sure that, and this is gonna sound probably a little sad, but one thing is for sure that we all know that we're gonna die at some point.
Yep.
So might as well to choose your difficult in something that you are willing to put it in the line for. And for me is I found my calling since I was being an artist, and I had people telling me like, "Oh, you would never do nothing," and putting me down. And I always wanted to prove them wrong. So that
Mm.
was like my courage, no, like Imma do something. And I was told too that you would never do nothing with your little art. And that was my dream to be an artist. I feel fulfilled. Like, I am an artist,
Yeah.
whether I'm, like, super recognized or not, I'm an artist. I do get paid for my work. I do make money, I do make a living. It's just what I became my career, to do cakes.
That's a very vulnerable share, and I do appreciate you really being honest and sharing your why and what you're building. And it's ironic that you said what you said because I have found myself in so many situations lately saying, well, no one beats death. It's coming for us all. So let's live our best life.
Yes.
And I, you know, I'm listening to you and I have my own business struggles that I deal with on the daily. And just hearing you is inspiring to me to say, you know what? Just keep going. Just keep going. You're building something amazing. And one of my biggest challenges to any business owner is it's about consistency, right? It's about being reliable for your customers. And even when your life is in shambles,
Yes.
you're able to show up or you're able to make sure that whatever the customer needs is getting met. And that's not easy, especially as like solo entrepreneurs. It's very challenging, but you're doing it. And
Yes.
I
And
appreciate that.
now that you mentioned this, so like two for the listener, be always mindful. Like I live by this. Like you never know what other person has gone through. So
Yeah.
I feel that you should always treat people with kindness.
Yeah.
Because we see faces, we never know what's behind. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot of silent battles. There's a lot of people battling illnesses, mental. Like it's it's the life today. It was before too when we started. It was back then was the COVID, what do we have like they separate us, they isolation from our
Yeah.
loved ones, losing their jobs. And right now it's I feel it economic. Right now
Mhm.
it's hitting like gas prices are
Yeah.
off the roof, like feeding children, like everything that like happens
Yeah.
like in our surroundings, like not just along with the business, it's like but as business owners we also have a personal life,
Yeah.
and there's so many things that come with it. And as you mentioned, like that we try our best face and we tried our best responses to our customers. But I do have a story that people are like, oh, please let it go. But I cannot let it go because I feel that a lot of people feel very entitled to our time, to
Yeah.
our like, oh, the customer is right. No, I will say this, and maybe it's my unpopular opinion. But not all the time I feel like our customers are right. We have a lot of people that are, and I'm sorry for whoever gets mad at me. I was like, but there's a lot of people that are extremely entitled. They think
Mhm.
that the customer is always right. And I'm not trying to antagonize anybody, but like we deal, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you have come across, but I have dealt with certain customers that they feel that even though that you do your work, which I love what I do, I love serving people. That's part of like why I ended up like it didn't just pick me, but I picked this thing
Yeah.
back was because I had a vocation to help others. I have always loved to help others. But sometimes people can be so malicious and be so like advantageous, they're like, oh, since you have a business, and there's big corporations that they
Mm.
can like easily like since they mass produce, they can easily just like, oh, like it's fine, whatever mistake you make, like you can have it completely free. Now, when you're talking about a small business like myself, that I do this to feed my children, and then I have
Yeah.
a customer that feels entitled, that they can be like, I didn't like this, I want all my money back.
Yeah. That brings me to I know exactly what you mean, and I often can usually I think you've probably gotten good at this too, and I've talked to a number of other bakers, you kind of have a sense. I always know the orders that no matter what I do,
They're gonna be
it's
a little
not gonna
problematic.
be yeah, it's gonna be something's gonna be wrong. Some like, going into it, I know. And early in my career, it was hard to say no to orders, right? I'm just like trying to build a business. So I'm saying yes, 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 yes. And I got burned. I totally got burned on stuff, right? And now I definitely am a lot more cautious if there's something that's like, I just don't think I'm going to meet your expectations. I try to just be really clear about that because inevitably it comes back and they're like, I don't want to pay for this. And I'm like, I already made it. And so I have a cookie disappointment policy. And my first question is, did you eat it? And if they didn't, fine. I'll take it back and I will donate it, right? Like I will find a home for the product so that it gets enjoyed, right?
Wow.
And but if they ate it, I'm like, you owe me some money, right? Like, but it's really rare that that happens to me now, but it's because I'm more seasoned in my
Uh-huh.
business. And I don't know what if that's been your experience too, where you kind of know you have like an instinct for it a little bit.
Yes. So after time, I started, yeah, at the beginning, I was just like you mentioned, just like you, like I didn't say no because I wanted more customers. I wanted my portfolio. So even if the clients sounded like they didn't want to pay much, they didn't value what I did. It was just like what they presented to me. I wanted to have it on my portfolio. So I would even
Yeah.
like down my price and I didn't appreciate, I guess, my own value. I was just like, I know I'm going to lose money, but I just want it. So, yes. And with time, I do interviews. Now, actually, it's like we do a call and I
Mhm.
get to meet with them. I get to see what their expectations and I get to see if I'm the right fit. Them entirely to me, but it works both ways because then I get to see where they at, what's their budget, where it's the location, what's the theme, if it's kind of like my work, if they wanted me to do someone else's work, if they're willing for my own artistic input on it. And depending how that interview goes, then I will recommend someone else. If it's the money budget wise.
I think the interview process is really incredible because you are doing such intricate and detailed work. I mean, you primarily do weddings, is that correct?
Yes. But I
Yeah,
also do all kinds of like cakes.
parties. I the wedding industry specifically is like a whole nother realm. And I as a baker and cookies don't typically land very well with weddings. It's not an elegant enough dessert um for most weddings. And I quickly found that I can't meet expectations at a wedding. Like the color palette and the expectation is just so high that I just don't do weddings. I do all the like the bridal showers and the bachelorette parties and like all of the pre stuff. But when it comes to weddings, the way I run my business, like I can't dedicate an entire day to one order. I do too many orders. I can't dedicate the amount of planning and prep that goes into developing their design. So I just steer away.
Now I feel like it is complicated, yes, because like you mentioned, like the expectations and whatnot. But I do have a contract, and I will say that even with the contract, I still have faith that even going to a contract, like I do ask for many things and there's many policies on them. Like, for example, they have to give me instructions and I have each policy they have to sign that they have read because a lot of people have the tendency to just and just sign and they don't even bother to read any of the policies. So I kind of like made it to where they have to initial everything that they have read. And one of them will be for the cakes for transportation, they will have to indicate with detail, like anything that I will be facing if there is a really sharp turn, if there's
Yeah.
this and that. Because if I have the cake already built and transportation, and it has happened, that has been like one of, I guess, the worst nightmares of being a baker is that like you get an accident upon arrival, and then we go back to contract, and it's like I did ask for specifications. You sign a contract, and I never got told other than I was sent. They get to be very busy. I understand as their big day. And even though that I have invested in equipment to keep the cake safe with like it's
Yeah.
no less than $500 to have a box to
Yeah.
transport the cake. And
Mm.
even with those type of things on hand, sometimes it's just like certain things is like you didn't tell me that there was like a super sharp here thing. I'm driving to somewhere that I have never been to, a super far venue, and then you make me take a cake in a stiff heel, like with no concrete or
Yeah.
pavers or no, it's
Right.
just like off road. It's like, oh my God. Like so one of the cakes didn't came and didn't make it on the best possible shape. And I was like, no, they wanted all their money back. And I'm sorry for saying, but then you get the Braxilas.
Yeah.
And yes, the expectations for weddings are pretty high. And
Yeah.
I will say that me on my end, that's my name on my work because it goes Lush Cakes Ursula Hacha. So I literally put what I have on it, and I really put everything that I have, like my time. And it shows in my work, like the detail that goes into it. Like it's something that I have to be extremely proud of to present to my customers because it's going to be displayed. It's their very special day. When something like that happens, is like, trust me that I'm not happy with myself. And that's where contracts come in, where they had to a policy that really, really specified what was my expectations from them as clients for that day so I could deliver in the best possible of ways. You know, like
Yeah.
if I know that I might be facing this or that or whatever, like, hey, there's gonna be steps so you won't be able to carry a really heavy cake. You're gonna have to bring it in pieces. Crane can get messed up, then I'm gonna have to arrive to the place to build it there and to finish decorating there. So it's gonna be halfway into it. Like it's very intricate when it comes to planning that. And when I do not receive from them what I need, I'm kind of like going blind and things of that sense can happen, which I am
Yeah.
not proud of.
Yeah.
Like, but you learn with time. Yes, then I have to stand my ground and be like, look, I did my best physical work. I have the pictures of it before. Like I had so much, like I said, that I invest into it. And why not? It's out of my hands at some point. And it's like if I would receive, all the clear instructions of where the venue was, how like what I could possibly encounter, like I would have been prepared better. But then again, you go in blind and things happen.
100%. But I think that's staying in business and then learning from that, right? Your policies and your contract is probably it's a representation of everything you've encountered, right? Like
Yes.
everything that you've had to navigate. And the only way sometimes is to just do it and figure out where
Oh,
learn
totally.
from our
Totally.
mistakes. So,
Those at the beginning were like completely things that I never, to me, was like common sense. I will say
yeah.
that it was like, oh, like you gave a cake to somebody and now they're responsible for the cake. But then I will get message a day later that
Yeah.
is like, so after the cake got delivered and it got delivered to a meetup location, they still drove away with the cake and
Yeah.
they tripped the cake and like clearly you can see that there's like fingers into the pictures that I will get and stuff. And it's like, that's not how I give you the
Delivered
cake.
it.
And then there's factors that come to it that it's like the distance that I have to do like the cakes, the weather, how the
Yeah.
people are driving, like little things that with time I was like, okay, so I don't ever want to encounter that if I deliver a cake, like why is still my responsibility? Because I mean,
Yeah.
this could happen to anybody. That could have happened to me, which it had, like I said, in like the example that I mentioned, the wedding. So yes, I start building up my contract to don't have to have those confrontations with people.
Yeah.
Like I understand their frustration, but at some point it's like I have to make those policies that is like, okay, like I offer delivery, but I charge for the responsibility that I'm gonna take on, that if something happens to the cake, you
Yeah.
still are entitled to part or partially, depending on the
Yeah.
damages. Because like I said, it's my name that goes in it and whatnot. I will be responsible for that. But I have to come to the like, but if you come and pick up the cake and you take it at your own risk, it's
Yeah.
your responsibility. I do
Yeah.
give instructions as well to remove all objects, all decorations. So a lot with starting and coming um or encountering like certain things that like then it's like, "Oh, I didn't know that we have to do this," or you didn't tell me that I have to refrigerate the cake. You didn't
Right.
told me that I was like, oh, now I know I need to do
Yeah.
instructions. Now I know I need to
Yeah.
do things. Like a lot of things it was like it's like common sense, but being a business, they have also expectations from you.
Yeah.
So and they hold you accountable to them. So then yes, with time I start learning that like, I'm gonna need my instructions, I'm gonna need my label, I'm gonna need to ask about allergies, I'm gonna need to ask about with things I mean that you're familiar as well with. You
Yeah.
are a business owner. So there's a lot that it comes in hand with it. So
Yeah. And I think
isn't that worth
my biggest takeaway is like when I get that feedback or when I'm navigating something that's, a disappointed customer or I didn't communicate clearly or, whatever the issue might be. I try to take it as a business owner and think, okay, how can I do better for the next time, right? So like
yeah.
you've taken all of these experiences and really built out a contract based on what goes wrong. Like, well, where the questions lie, where, people forget to ask things or you forget to ask things. So you've built a system that allows you to address most of those so that hopefully you have the highest percentage of successful orders. So you mentioned in your application that one of the things as a business owner that gives you a little bit of anxiety is like the business structure. Do you want to share what you meant by that and what parts of that are hard for you?
Oh, this so I would take it from when I started. It was just more like a hobby.
Yeah.
I didn't have a contract. I didn't have policies in place. It was mostly chatting with people. So as you mentioned right now, like as time went by, I learned to build systems that were or structure. And
Yeah.
that was the thing that gave me a lot of anxiety to
Yeah.
have a policy written down, like
Mm.
to take the time to do that. That was like a thing that I feel very anxious about because
Mhm.
I don't know, I'm very perfectionist. So I wanted to have it right.
Yeah.
And to not leave room for error, and just that part itself was making me very frustrated that I was like, what if I make a mistake in my policy where instead of like helping me, like it actually like jeopardize me, or if I don't do the right wording or like
Mhm.
things of that nature that I was like very hesitant about. And to go the route of like I need to have everything in the bank. And then I was like the taxes, like, oh, what if I make a mistake? Like, what if like somebody like sues me for this? Or it was just fear. So I was just operating out of fear. So that's what I meant, which like the
Yeah.
business side give me a lot of anxiety because
Yeah.
I didn't feel that I was ready to go big. I felt like
Yeah.
that was it's kind of like hobby, like which it wasn't. It was a way that I was making money, but I wasn't entirely ready to invest money
Yeah.
to make money.
Yeah. Right. And that's where, you're exactly right. In investing money to make money, you can buy resources, you can buy contracts to start with and modify them, you can pay attorneys, you can pay accountants, you can do all of those things. Those are all investments that in turn just help you make money. I appreciate you sharing that because that is a lot of what I am trying to do for bakers is like Like you mentioned pricing. That is one of the areas that most bakers don't have figured out. They don't have figured out at all, and they're just guessing. And, I developed a class called Price It Right, and it's literally I built a spreadsheet to give to bakers in that class to say, do the work, price your ingredients, time yourself, figure out your overhead, and then build in a profit margin. Because if you don't do that from the get go, you're not going to make money, right? And investing a little bit in getting some of those, even those kind of resources, can help bakers shave so much time off of growing their business that you and I have done by a trial and error, right?
No, and I tell you, there's a lot of people that I know they are in the same, like doing cakes and why not. And
Yeah,
that's the biggest struggle that they had to price
yeah,
it. So at
yeah,
first, I kind of went with a cheating, with the like try to price it by the slice. Cause sometimes people
yeah,
come at you and you don't have like everything right on hand to give
yeah,
them a quote. So
right.
it's a little different with cookies. It's like the same kind of like ingredients that you get to use
Yeah,
if it's not that there's different flavors or why not involved. And cakes, it's a little more wiggle for that. So
yeah,
there's a lot of room for error
yeah,
because there's a lot of different feelings. So the
yeah,
feelings have many different ingredients. Some are fresh, some are jelly, some are puddings and why not. So just to mention a few.
yeah,
And the thing is that the customer just sends you a picture and says, I want this cake for this many people. So you don't really have an idea how much fondant it's going to take,
right.
how much icing is going to take or frosting or the fillings and why not. You have to like pretty much take a somewhat of a guess. So I became with a little cheat sheet for that one.
Yeah,
And I do share it with my people that it was like price it by like the amount that they want and then subtract, what you see. Like if you see that it's fondant, add for each floor, I don't know, like about 25 or whatever is it that you because like you said, your overhead, like you're gonna use your light, you're gonna use your gas. And not going too much into detail with this, there's like a lot of bakers making this mistake. They have a lot of work
yeah,
because I did it myself at the beginning.
yep,
You have a lot of work,
yeah,
a lot. Like, I cannot stress enough the word a lot and not enough money. So you're working basically for free because, yes, so good. Like you're selling a lot, but you're not making, and it's not reflecting the amount of time that you're putting into what you're doing because you're forgetting to pay that one person.
yeah,
Like you're counting your ingredients
yeah,
and you may be counting a little bit the overhead
mhm,
but not all the time because a lot of people, when they start from home. They don't have a kitchen and they don't have like a
yep,
specific location. I still work from home. This is just the convenience of I have my
yep,
kids, so I get to be a stay-at-home mom. I have the little one playing in front
yeah,
of me as we speak. But yes, like you mentioned, the overhead, and a lot of people are not very familiar with the word. That be your light, your gas, your water, because you have to wash dishes. And that's a thing that many of us at the beginning, we don't take in consideration that it's not only gonna be the cake or the cookies in this instance for us bakers, but you have the mixer, all the little spatulas, all the little scrapers, and everything that you use. That after the cake is done, now you have a big mess. So that's your time, that's your
yeah,
light, that's
yeah,
your water, your soap that
yeah,
you need to clean the mess of what you did. So I feel that as bakers, sometimes we have to, what's the word that I'm looking for? Educate our customers. Like
yeah,
there is like sometimes you see the final product.
yeah,
Let's for example, this is a cake. And then so I'm holding the cake and it's a tiny cake. And they're like, how much for that tiny cake? But they don't take in consideration that this tiny cake, my recipe, I cannot cut it in half for making that tiny cake. I
right,
will have to make my full recipe, which is going to take the time of me measuring or weighting because some of the recipes are precise on weight, right? Like macarons, of things of that sense. And I must spend that time sorting out ingredients, measuring, weighting, mixing, and then baking, waiting
yeah,
for it to cool off. frosting it, putting it away to chill, frosting it again, like the final decoration, chilling before they take. And then once they take, I get all the cleaning to do, which is taking
Yeah.
me light. It's taking me away from my kids. Like I have to take in consideration this like the day that I have a big order and I take pride on making my things fresh. I do
Yeah.
not have things freeze and just like to pull out and be doing like big preparations. It takes you away from cooking for them or even yourself. Sometimes I'm just running at a big venti coffee and
Yeah.
2, 3 hours of sleep. So those
Yeah.
are things that like you learn as you go are
Yeah.
part of learning the business and we need to account for them. So
Yeah.
those are very good tools to have to learn how to use your time, your overhead, and why not? I give it
Yeah.
back to you.
Yeah, I think what I also find is that many of us start in our home kitchen, and we forget the overhead like you've talked about. But we also forget that extra wear and tear on our ovens. Domestic ovens are not built to bake it all day long,
Mhm.
and you're gonna burn up your appliances a lot faster too. It's just all of those things to think about. Ursula, we're almost out of time, but I would love for you to share what advice would you give a baker that's just getting started and hoping to build their business into something sustainable and successful? What advice would you give them?
To not be afraid to ask questions to someone with more experience. I feel that sometimes we get a little like, oh, they're not gonna want to tell us because they don't want to share the business. I
Yeah.
feel that that has been the impression of certain people that have come around, but don't be afraid to ask the questions. It's better to know than to try to figure it out on your own because it is a hard, like, learn to go through those ups and downs and why not. So yes, always ask, and if you find that there is a system available for you, is like take it. If there's classes, always be open,
Yeah.
to hear that advice and take it with that openness. I feel like don't get offended that they're trying to like share something. I feel that it's for our own good, for our growth, and you will get to see that it's a pretty, like, community when you get to help one another. There's room for everybody, like, so that would be my advice.
Yeah, well, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And I really appreciate you sharing how you've built your business and your why behind your business because I think it's really inspiring. And I know that there's other people out there that will be very inspired by your story. So thank you so much for sharing. And we'll put in the show notes all of your information because your cakes are just absolutely stunning and your
Thank
artwork
you.
beautiful, and everybody should go check it out because you
Oh,
are
thank you. I
truly
appreciate that.
arted. Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, it was a true pleasure to be here on the podcast, and I hope the more people, like, get to access those classes that you're giving, that's very helpful, so that's
Yeah, thank
very
you.
nice.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for joining.